Kiya Podcast would like to acknowledge that this episode was recorded on Whadjuk land of the Noongar people. We recognise our First Nations people as the traditional custodians of the land, and we pay our respects to the elders past, present and future.
Okay, so we're at the hen house and Isaiah.
Hello, Eric. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Now, this is your first time here.
Very first time. So big, as we said, big things for 2024. And what a way to shoot our very first episode at the hen house. Like, how amazing is this facility?
I got to say, they do an amazing job here, and I love the AC.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's so cool in here.
All right, now, what made you decide to start the Kiya podcast? What was the inspiration?
Wow. Honestly, what got me into listening to podcasts first, I just got sick of music. I got sick of hearing the same songs or the same genre of music. So I started listening to podcasts. I heard Body Magic. So it was Potty Magic, and now it's called Fat Chat. But before, when it was Potty Magic, he's from, I remember him mentioning he was from Canning Vale, and he still lives there, and he did it out of his home. And obviously he had that profile from Love Island, and I was like, man, like this is, and I'm a personal trainer myself, and I was like, man, this is like really cool. Imagine if there was something like this for like Indigenous athletes. And then so that got me into podcasting, started listening to Joe Rogan, and then started listening to Not So PG with Brooke Blurton. And because they talk about a lot of Indigenous issues and LGBTQ plus issues and things like that, and put it on a platform, I was like, man, I want to do this for something in Perth. So not just for Noongars. That's why I always say it's Indigenously owned. It's not an Indigenous podcast.
It's for everyone. It's inclusive,
it's for everyone, and then that way I can interview non-Indigenous guests and things like that.
Still a badge of honour. To be an Indigenous owned and operated podcast. Something to be very proud of.
Yeah, for sure, and
especially in the media space.
Yeah, it's a way where people can tell their story from their perspective. I think a lot of the times with Indigenous people, we're not really put in the media or on a platform unless we're in the wrong, or unless you're up there with sports. You know what I mean?
There are numerous university studies which look at Australian media and its representation of Indigenous culture and how it's mostly negative.
Yeah.
Often they don't even quote sources, meaning it's speculative as well. And that does give the impression to the viewer of, not favourable terms.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good that you can have that voice. No one can censor it, but also you can lift up others.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole idea of it was, let's get their voice out there and what they're doing from their perspective, so that people. I might look at someone like Uncle Nathan Hansen Sergeant Nathan Hansen that we interviewed a couple months back, and not know what he had to go through in order to be a police officer, give that Indigenous police officer perspective on both Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people on how they're portrayed. And those sort of stories I don't think you would know about unless you know him or know of him or anything like that. So this just gives it that platform.
Here's the thing. You think if you were Waypole, that's a story that you would want to promote. Now, I have to move straight on. You had something amazing happen to you over the weekend. You were host at the Optus Stadium. Tell us about that experience.
Man, I was so nervous going into it. Like I sat in the car park and I called my dad and I was like, I know it's going to be good. I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I kept saying, I'm excited. And it was just like, have you ever done something and been like, I'm meant to do this? Like this, I was so nervous because I knew it was going to be good.
Yes.
I knew this was something that, I was made for. And the whole time doing it, like, shout out to Dave Berry, because he was a tremendous mentor. He's obviously been doing it. He's so professional, but he was also really relaxed in answering all my questions, even like giving me answers to questions I didn't even like think of asking yet.
Yes.
But like having someone like that and, you know, being able to stand in the crowd, I think it was 41,000 people, and announce the game, interview people, you know, get the crowd up and about, and just be a voice. Like, man, I couldn't have imagined something like that.
So obviously he must have seen something in you, because it's not too often that gurus will spend that time to give you that knowledge. So he's obviously seen something in you, and others have as well. But how much time did you have to prepare for this?
Not a lot. So I think a week prior they sent me the script for the game before. So it was to get the gist of around what you're going to talk about, and then the day before they sent me a draft of the script. So it was on a Wednesday. Tuesday night they sent me the draft of the script, and I got to have a quick read through, and then I got the actual version probably 2.5 hours before game time. And so
not a lot of time to prepare,
man. 30 seconds before you know, we've got to announce, I've got to do a quick read. Yep, this is what I got to cover, this is what I got to cover, this is what I got to cover, and then bang, go and do it. And then Dave, being a great like mentor, was like, hey, really, this is the one we have to go word for word, because it's for KFC, it's the sponsor, and
Yes.
We're on field, you know, during the innings break. But yes, I had no idea what cricket was, so that's another thing. They messaged, so I got it. I got the call. They said, "Hey, Isaiah, just seeing if you're interested in emceeing the Scorchers game," and I was like, "Yeah, 100%."
What Scorchers?
They were like, how's your cricket knowledge? I said, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Hung up the phone. I was like, I know. I messaged Uncle Adam Desmond. I said, Uncle, I know fuck all about cricket.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about cricket.
Sorry, if you have to take a message.
No, all good. It's just Boston. How come every time it's just Boston?
He's
a brilliant. He's a brilliant man.
Fantastic
but yeah,
man.
I knew nothing about cricket, and I was just like, fuck it. These opportunities come around. You've heard stories of so many people who do great things, who's just taken that leap of faith. So
you took that opportunity, but it's also about positioning yourself. So you've obviously put yourself out there. You've started this podcast. You've also done a lot of other public speaking and public events. So you have been training and positioning yourself to be in this spot.
without even knowing, like, it's just all.
But it's obviously a passion and something that you love.
Yeah.
Now, I won't take too much of the time. Do we have a guest coming soon?
We do have a guest coming soon. She's not. She's not a thing yet. That was just Boston again.
Cool.
So that was just Boston again. Boston's busy.
He would be a great guest host.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You and him on camera. That would be hilarious.
See, we got the virtual version before, and then
the rapport that you both have. I've been fortunate enough to witness the brotherhood that you guys, I think, have. I would honestly call you guys brothers because you're so close.
And it was so quickly that we became friends. Like, it was just ridiculous. Like, I was after like seeing him maybe 2-3 times over 2 weeks. Then it was like, I know this guy.
I also love the teamwork that you both display. You both respect each other so much, and together you form this amazing team. I love the team that you both form, but definitely a suggestion for a guest host.
That's definitely something I've got to call him about straight after this.
Have you heard him sing?
He can sing?
He has the voice of an angel. I don't know how he sung the national anthem at NBL 1 games. He not only that, he played acoustic guitar. Oh yes.
Boston, you got so many hidden talents that you're just so quiet. He's so humble and just quiet about it.
I know.
Oh, he's a songbird of our generation. Just hasn't even said anything. Like,
he has the voice of an angel. Amazing, man. But definitely a good guest host. And if he doesn't live too far away.
Yeah. No, he's a Warwick dweller.
How did you find getting to my place in the studio? It's a bit of a drive, isn't it?
From where I come from, it is a bit of a drive. But once I got here, everything's within 10 minutes of each other. So I went to Subi. Remember, I told you I went to the bookshop, Dymocks, whatever that bookshop's called. We went there.
However it's still open.
However it's still open.
That bookshop survived Amazon, COVID,
Yeah,
9/11. It's survived anything. I don't know how it's done it. Hats off to Dymocks.
And it's still got people coming in and out. Like the book I got, they were like, yeah, because I went to get Big Love, Brooke Blurton's book.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we sold it an hour ago. And I was like, far out. And I called yesterday and they said, yeah, we've got it in stock. I'm looking right at it.
Economy's doing great. Dymocks is out here selling out of books.
Add your stuff to cart and do click and collect for Dymocks if you need to order a book because they're going to, whatever it is going to sell out.
Yeah, guaranteed.
No, it isn't.
Now, if we found a studio closer to the city, would that be easier? Do you think?
It would be easier, but...
Because there's one in Burswood.
It would be easier, but how awesome is this studio? Like, everything we need is...
So I will say, here. The other studios that I've recorded at, they don't have this atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's just a very relaxed atmosphere. You come here on a weekend, they'll be cooking barbecues. They'll invite you out for a barbecue.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what I mean? And I'm a very... like loyal person, so when if someone gives you your start, like I kind of feel not obligated, but it's like my duty to kind of
show them
stick with them and then let that grow in that space. So this, like we said, this is the very first time we're in a proper studio for this podcast. So to me, I'm sitting here, like, when we first sat down and got everything ready, I was like, man, this is so unreal. Like, this is where...
Congratulations.
It's where I saw the podcast going before I even started it, when it was just an idea. And then just the fact that now, this was... Starting a podcast was my 2023 goal. So now, a year later, it's established. We're in a proper studio. I've got your amazing help. We're booking...
It's a privilege to be on board and be
bigger and bigger guests every single session. It's like... And, I'm starting to get people that's noticing it and
that's
rapport from it. And
one
it's
thing
like
I've noticed is the community's reception.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people started to share your podcast and tell people, yo, listen and subscribe.
Yeah.
And they're doing it because, yeah, they're friends, but they love your podcast.
It's so awesome.
They love you. They love what you're doing.
It's ridiculous. Like I'm literally just being myself and talking to awesome people that's doing things that I admire. Or
speaking of self, real quick, just to go off on a side, how do you have the level of self-confidence you do at your age? Because a lot of people, when they're young, they try to pretend to be somebody else, or they're not truly confident in themselves. Mm-hmm. Where does that come from within you?
Great question. Very great question. I think, since I was in nappies, my grandfather, Dr. Richard Walley, and my dad as well, and all my uncles, all danced on stage and, would always bring me to shows, had me speak and actually be creative with how we paint up, how we dance and how we perform. And so that kind of gave me the confidence. Like, doing public speaking is the only time where I think before I speak, and the only time where I actually am quiet and I'm present. So, doing this, it just comes naturally. I don't know where I got the confidence from. I'd assume my dad. My mum's a very strong, resilient, self-aware person as well. So I think that self-awareness comes from her, and then that showmanship and creativity comes from my dad. And then, yeah, it's just they've always told me to be yourself no matter what. Good or bad, you might make a mistake, but if you are being yourself while making a mistake, you're able to learn from that. But if you're making a mistake trying to be something you're not, you instinctively, that. Like,
yes,
I'm in the wrong. But yeah, so I've just always, been myself. If someone doesn't like it or whatever, then I can happily accept that that's not on me. That's their own. That's
a hard thing
perception.
To come around to.
Yeah. So that's something that, hey, if someone says, hey, I don't like your podcast, I'm like, great.
But have you listened to it?
I'm like, great. Well, I'm like, that's fantastic. What don't you like about it? They might say, oh, the lighting's shit. Oh, cool. Let I can go back and I can just look at it, look at the lighting, and see what can be tweaked, what can be, mate. Hey, you know what? That person's right. That lighting is, can be changed or something. Not saying this lighting, but Yeah.
Absolutely. I have to agree. When you engage with any sort of feedback, you can turn it into a positive experience. If I get someone that's saying, hey, I didn't like this video, I go, well, have you seen my other content?
Yeah.
If not, here's a link. If you don't like that, I apologize. What do you like to watch?
Yeah, what do you like to watch?
It's a great way to get feedback and go, okay, all right, well, if I can get them liking me and liking my content, then new audience.
That's it. And you can't be either way. You can't be like, oh, I've got to please everybody.
Yes. Definitely take it.
Because then you start getting conflicted in yourself, like, am I doing this right? Am I doing that? Should I be doing this? I should be doing that. But then again, you can't please everyone, but then, you have to be open to criticism at the same time and be able to look at yourself from a third party point of view and like, how can I improve? Not what can I change? How can I,
That's a much better way of saying it. I misspoke. You're absolutely correct. That is a much better way of saying it, yes.
Like no matter what scale you're at, whether you're, Will Schofield, the guys at Backchat who are pretty much leading the pack. There's always ways you can improve. Like, I remember watching the very first time Backchat had Body Magic on the podcast. So this was like a month before it turned into Fat Chat. So this is where it grows. And Will Schofield came on to Body Magic's podcast and he goes, Gerald said, it's good to have you here, even though we're competitors in the podcasting. And Will said, we're not competitors. It's a community.
Yeah.
It's a podcasting community. And I was just like, well, that gives me they don't know who I am. I know of them. I think I played a little bit of footy with Will when I was down at Peel. But, and then that just gave me so much more confidence in being like, you know what? I can start this podcast and it will be supported. I might not be as big as them. I might not ever have the podcast growth as them, but I feel confident in the support I'll get.
Well, that is one good thing about the decentralized media market. You don't have to have 1 million views to be successful. You can have 10,000 views and still make it. There is enough audience out there for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And like, honestly, whether 10 people listen to this or 10,000 people or 10 million people, I'll still be doing it the exact same way. As if I'd still treat those 10 people as if it was 10 million because it's just so fun to do.
And vice
so
versa,
passion,
you treat the 10 million as if they're 10.
As if they're 10 people, like I'm speaking right to them. So that's why I'm always open for suggestions for guests, for topics, for anything. Like it's just fun to do. If I could do this full time.
Well, once we get Kiya signed up to some sponsors listen up, we will definitely have to get you a second show. This may be a call for a quick drink break.
Quick drink break. Thank you for having me on your show, Eric.
No, thank you for having me. This is your show. This is the pre-Kiya podcast chat, and it's been a pleasure being on your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. Obviously follow us on Instagram, Kiya_podcast, the Kiya Podcast. We're also on TikTok, YouTube, and Spotify. So make sure, go in there, have a look, like, share, all that sort of stuff. But also, even feel free to send us a message on who you want to see on this podcast, who you might think will be good, because we're always open. We've got a lot of episodes coming up over this Christmas, New Year's, and going into 2024 period. So make sure that you stay tuned in for that. And thank you for listening. Cheers. Budawan.